buying a house. Seems easy, but do you really know all of the details that go into getting you from start to finish on the home buying process? Hi, I'm John Verdeau, owner and co-founder of the Home Marketing Group, and that's why we're here putting this series together. I've brought in a team of experts from the Home Marketing Group that will help me take you through the process from beginning to end, getting started to closing on how to buy a house. These are all the details that you need to know. Be asking your agent, know yourself to make sure that you're making the right decision and getting the best deal and getting the right house for your needs and goals. So we're going to take you through that. In this first episode, we're going to go through the getting started phase. You've made the decision, okay, I'm ready to buy. What now? What's the timeline? What's the process? What should I be doing? So listen in on episode 1 coming up. And we're going to take you through that part, 4-part series. We're going to take you through the mortgage process. We're going to take you through the contract. We're going to take you through closing, all the things that you need to know to make sure you have a successful home buying transaction. Okay, so let's get into episode 1, and that's getting started. This is the point at which you've said, okay, I'm ready to buy a house. And with me is Hannah Way, who is one of our top buyer specialists at the Home Marketing Group, works with a lot of first-time home buyers, and is someone that I wanted to have come on with me to discuss this part, because this is really where when you're like, okay, I've made the decision, I want to buy a house, now what? And it's not as conventional as you may think. There are some things that you want to do up front before you actually start going into homes and looking at them. So, Hannah, let's talk a little bit about home buying process, just on a very general level. You know, there's obviously the phase of finding the home, and that can, take?
I mean, you can be anywhere from 30 days to months, just depending.
Right. So the home searching process can vary depending on your situation, how many homes are available, your timeline, how many houses you want to see. But once we find that home and it does go under contract, about how long typically does it take to close?
I mean, typically what you're going to see is 30 days. So depending upon what kind of loan you have and stuff, but really, ideally, most loans can close within a month if everything goes according to plan.
So we tell everybody 30 to 45 days is your typical time frame from contract to go into closing, which tends to be usually more than enough time.
Yeah.
And then obviously there's varying timelines depending on certain situations, but that's what you can pretty much expect. Okay. So that's what you in your mind should be prepared for the buying process. It's not something, unless you're paying cash, that you're going to be able to, once you put it under contract, you're going to move in 5 days later.
Correct. And yeah.
Okay. So step number 1 is getting pre-approved for a mortgage if you're using financing, right?
Yes.
Okay. Yes. And why is that important?
So when it comes to mortgages and being pre-approved, that process, you don't really know what you're pre-approved for and what kind of stuff the amount you're going to be pre-approved for and what you need to do to get to those steps. So if we start looking, we love something and there's a hitch, now we're 3 days back waiting for that to see if this is still in the market. So you really need to be ready so you got all your ducks in a row before you get to that.
Right. And in a competitive market, very, very important to have that available, ready to go so you can make an offer quickly.
Absolutely.
The other thing is we don't want you to waste time looking at houses that you either are can't afford or not approved for, or maybe you can afford more and didn't realize it.
Correct. On both sides of that, there's nothing, all of a sudden, if you're looking at something that you can't afford, everything else looks less. Or there's something that you love and you didn't even know was a possibility.
Right.
So we want to give people every option and opportunity to see what is really what they can have so they can envision themselves in that place.
So when we meet a new buyer, the first question we ask them is, have you met with a lender? Have you talked to a lender yet? And we do that step first so we know and you know exactly where you need to be looking and what price point you need to be looking, and you have a good idea what your payment's going to be based on that pre-approval as well. Because we don't want to get your hopes up, that's an important thing. All right, so so we've gotten you pre-approved. You know basically what you're going to be, what you can afford, and what you're going to be looking at. Next thing is all right, now we need to start finding some houses. So let's talk about starting the home search and things that you do, Hannah, with folks when we do that. Instead of just jumping right into showings, what do you like to do?
Well, I think having that pre-approval start, I have a lot of people, especially first-time home buyers, they're intimidated and they know to call a realtor, but they don't know what that process looks like. So we've already done the pre-approval. It's answered questions for them about what my payments are going to look like. Is this credit okay? So then we get to that point where we're looking at what kind of homes do you want? Now you know what the possibility is. Tell me your dreams. Now they know how to get there. And so at this point, then we sit down and we talk about what are the things that you really love? What are things that look realistic on our price point, especially when this is like a new process? People are afraid to say what could be a possibility if they don't know what it is. Mm-hmm. So my whole entire job is to say to them, yeah, let's make this work. So that's what we're talking about. We're showing them and saying, hey, this is what we can do at this price point and be realistic. So either side feels attainable, but not overwhelming.
Right. So we want to do an analysis and sit down and consult you and find out what your needs, your wants, your must-haves are before we get into any showings, because we don't want to waste your time. Right. And we want to make sure that you're happy with the house that you're going to buy. But we can't do that unless we know those things. And Hannah's really great about identifying that with people. So we really recommend that you have that needs analysis before you start jumping into looking at houses to really make sure that we crack the nutness, so to speak, of trying to figure out what exactly you're looking for, and maybe provide some insights about what's going on to help you a little bit, maybe some things you didn't think of, considering this is your first time.
Correct.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay. So once we've figured that out, then it becomes, okay, now we need to actually find some houses that fit that box that we've created, right? And so a lot of that is online now, which is great. Yeah. You know, we have a lot of tools at our disposal to make sure that you're looking at listings online before you actually go to the house and can get some, the general information and can see the photos and everything like that before we have to jump in the car and do anything. So talk a little bit about the online search process.
So putting that, again, just like pre-approval before going to look at things, nothing is more discouraging than walking into things that you didn't love. So by doing that online process and setting people up on what they're looking for, we know exactly what they want. They can say without feeling weird about the fact we drove somewhere, hey, I don't like this. I don't like this. So you're honing in on what your buyer wants. So at that point, then that online process becomes so smooth sailing. You understand what they want. And then from there, you can narrow down what you can actually look at. Right. And that wastes less time for them. They don't feel like you're just opening doors. They understand that you and them are on the same page.
Right. So good. Exactly. And so once we figured all of this out, you're looking at less homes, spending less time, getting less frustrated. And then you're getting notifications in the meantime too. We have a system set up of a new listing that hits the market, fits your criteria, it gets sent right to you via text or email. Mm-hmm. And that way you're jumping on these things and you're kept up to speed. It's just a much more efficient way to do it. Okay. So let's talk about a buyer representation agreement. Mm-hmm. Okay. You're going to encounter this with most real estate agents you work with, especially if it's your first time. You probably have never seen one before. And so let's talk a little bit about why that's important and why it benefits you.
Okay. And, obviously the first contract that you're sliding to somebody who's not comfortable with this, and the first thought in most home buyers' minds when they're wondering if they can do a payment, now they're like, well, what's happening here? What are we doing? So understanding that in order for us to represent you in a situation where we're going to bat legally on things, hey, we're negotiating on your behalf, we need some sort of coverage to let them know that we're representing you. That's literally all this is. It's showing them, hey, we're here for you and this is what we're doing for you. And people are intimidated about that. So our job is to explain to them why this is actually better. And once you've done all this other stuff, they start to see, oh, these people are here just like a legal team, looking out for me and my best interests.
Right. So representation in the real estate process, especially your first time, is hugely important. What we don't want you to do is go directly to the agent who's representing the seller in that situation, who is, like we said, representing the seller, meaning they're not focused on your best interest. They're focused on the seller's best interest. You want somebody in your corner, experienced like Hannah, that can make sure you're making the right decision, buying it at the right price. It's a big deal buying a house.
Right.
So you need somebody in your corner that's going to do what's best for you and understanding that. So,
and I always remind my buyers, I'm signing this before you are. I'm making a promise to you. Once I sign this, I'm obligated to return your calls and do these things. You're going to sign something. I'm also taking it that seriously. My name's on that paper too.
Right.
So I'm committing myself to you, and I sign first before they do, and they're understanding. Right. This is me saying I'm going to call you back.
Right. Yes. All good. It's a win-win scenario.
Yeah.
Okay. So now we've started to look at some property. We're in the car now. We've shown some properties to you. You've seen a house that you love and you want to make an offer. So how does that process work when it comes time to quote unquote do the paperwork for the offer?
So, after you're in the home that you love and you really need to kind of think, what will it take for me to be here and what am I willing to be here? So I always give people, after we're standing there and I'm saying, hey, is this the one? Then we work through those numbers. What does that look like? What does this look like to you? what does it mean to you to be here? And so once we get to that process, it's a pretty straightforward paperwork thing that I'm working through all that with them. Once they tell me what they want, this is a smooth sailing process because I've already known where they want to be. Mm-hmm. So at that point, it's a pretty much just filling out these paperworks, can be signed online. It makes it smooth sailing. Yeah. Their dream is there. I can make it a reality in hours.
Yeah. So again, another reason why that needs analysis is important, because Hannah knew already a lot of the things that these folks or you as the buyer would want to know, would need to have in their house. And so she's able to structure that offer based on some things that you've already done, including know how much you can afford with that pre-approval letter, which is also a requirement with most offers as well. So all of this is in preparation to making the process as smooth as possible and making sure that the things that you want in that offer are in there and it's structured correctly and it gives you the best chance of getting the house.
Correct.
Okay. So another component of that is once the offer is submitted is the negotiation phase. And this is not something that is focused on or talked about a lot by a lot of people, but the negotiation part is a big reason why you have to hire a good realtor.
Correct.
Because if they don't know how to negotiate or they don't work well with others and they work against the other agent instead of with, to try to get you the best deal, it can actually hurt you a lot in getting that house, especially if you're not working, if you don't have a good rapport with that other agent, right? So it's hugely important that we work with agents that can negotiate the best deal for you, because it's never just submit the offer, hit accept, and go. It rarely ever works like that. So we need to make sure that we're working with somebody that understands how to get that deal done for you to get the best deal possible moving forward. Hannah, thanks so much for coming.
Yes, thank you.
Guys, in the next episode, we're going to talk about mortgage lending and why it's important and the different types of loans that there are out there. You'd be surprised. There's a lot more flexibility than you think.